You think billionaires are buying land. They're not. They're buying independence. And there's a difference, a fundamental one, between those two things. Because land is finite, land is visible, land is something anyone can understand, tax, regulate, or seize. But independence? Independence is invisible. Independence is structural. Independence is the condition in which you no longer need anyone's permission to survive. And that's exactly what a small number of people are quietly building right now, while most of the world isn't paying attention. To understand what's really happening, you need to start with a simple question. What do you actually own? Not what you pay for, not what you use, not what you access every day. What do you own? Think about your food. You don't own it. You buy access to a supply chain you didn't build, don't control, and can't see. The moment that chain breaks, a drought, a shortage, a disruption, your access disappears. Think about your water. Same story. It comes from a network of pipes, reservoirs, and treatment systems built and managed by institutions you have no say in. You pay a bill, you get access. You own nothing. Think about your energy. You plug into the wall, the electricity flows. But from where? Through whose systems? Owned by whom? Regulated by which government? Subject to what failure? And think about your information. You search for it. You find it on platforms that aren't yours, stored on servers you've never seen, filtered by algorithms you didn't design. Everything, your food, your water, your energy, your information, exists inside a system you didn't build, don't control, and don't own. You're a user, not an owner. And that distinction is everything. Now think about what a small group of people understood early. They understood that money by itself isn't power. Money is a claim on a system. It's a token. It's a representation of value that exists inside a network of banks, governments, and institutions. Money depends on those systems working. If the systems break, money means nothing. Real power is different. Real power is the ability to produce what you need, regardless of whether the external system is functioning. Real power is owning the infrastructure, not just the product. And once you understand that distinction, everything they're doing starts to make sense. They're not buying land to farm and sell at market. They're building closed systems, environments where food, water, energy, and information are produced, processed, and distributed internally, with minimal dependence on any external network. The seed is code. The soil is hardware. And when you run the right program on that biological machine, it produces real resources, continuously, without permission, without interruption, without asking anyone. This isn't farming, this is infrastructure. And infrastructure is the foundation of every lasting form of power that has ever existed in human history. But biological systems have a ceiling. There's only so much land can produce, only so much a human brain can optimize, only so much manual oversight that works before it becomes a bottleneck. That's where intelligence enters the equation. Artificial intelligence is not a tool the way a hammer is a tool. A hammer amplifies physical force. It's limited by the person holding it. AI is different. AI is a system that processes information at a scale and speed no human can match. It detects patterns across thousands of variables simultaneously. It operates continuously, no fatigue, no bias toward comfort, none of the cognitive limitations that constrain every human decision-maker. If you know how to use it, AI becomes your strategist, analyzing data and surfacing options you never would have seen. Your engineer, designing systems and identifying inefficiencies you would have missed. Your operator, running processes while you sleep, adjusting in real time to changing conditions. But here's the critical point. AI doesn't offer those advantages equally to everyone. It amplifies what you already have. If you have capital, infrastructure, and data, AI makes all three more powerful. If you have none of those things, AI mostly serves you ads. The people building these systems understand this. They're not using AI as a convenience. They're using it as a force multiplier on systems they already own. And that combination, biological infrastructure powered by artificial intelligence, creates a cycle that becomes more productive, more efficient, and more self-sufficient over time. More automated, less dependent on human intervention, less vulnerable to disruption, and increasingly less visible to the people it's leaving behind. Now we get to the third element, the one that's easiest to overlook and hardest to replace: philosophy. Not philosophy as an academic discipline, not philosophy as an abstract debate about the nature of consciousness, philosophy as the operating system for your mind. Here's the thing, your mind is also a system. It takes inputs, information, images, sounds, emotions, and produces outputs, decisions, beliefs, behaviors, priorities. Like any system, what comes out depends entirely on what goes in, and on the quality of the filter between the two. Right now, the inputs feeding most people's minds are being curated by someone else, not necessarily with bad intentions, but deliberately. Every platform, every algorithm, every feed is designed to maximize engagement, which means maximizing emotional arousal, fear, outrage, anxiety, desire. Those are the states that keep people scrolling. Those are the states that make people reactive instead of deliberate. And reactivity is the opposite of power. When you're reactive, you respond to whatever's in front of you. You can't see patterns. You can't think in decades. You can't build systems. You can only react to the last thing you saw, the last thing that scared you, the last thing someone put in your feed. Philosophy is the antidote to that. Not because philosophy gives you answers, but because philosophy trains you to control the filter, to decide, consciously and deliberately, what deserves your attention, what deserves your emotion, and what deserves to be ignored entirely. And attention in the modern world isn't just a resource, it's the resource. Every system that exists today, social media, news, entertainment, advertising, was designed to extract your attention, monetize it, and return it to you in a degraded form. You spend your attention, they convert it into revenue. You get distraction. The people building independent systems don't live that way. They treat attention the way a serious investor treats capital. They ask, what's the return on this? What does engaging with this produce? What do I lose by spending time here instead of there? They study patterns, not what's trending, but what's been true across long time horizons. They think in years and decades, not news cycles. They invest in understanding before they invest in assets. And most importantly, they move early, before most people understand, before the window closes, before the system solidifies around a new configuration that locks them out. Because that's what history teaches, over and over, without exception. Systems reward those who move early, not because early movers are necessarily smarter or more deserving, but because systems have path dependencies. Once built, they become self-reinforcing. The people who position themselves inside the system early collect the benefits of compounding. The people who arrived late find a world that was designed around someone else's interests. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's how systems work. When electricity arrived, a small group of people built the infrastructure. Everyone else became customers. When the internet arrived, a small group of people built the infrastructure. Everyone else became users. When AI arrives, not as a product but as infrastructure, a small group of people will build the systems. Everyone else will access them. Same pattern, again. And the gap this creates isn't small, it isn't temporary, it's structural, and it compounds over time. So where does that leave you? This isn't about survival. Most people will survive no matter what happens. The system wasn't designed to destroy you. It was designed to make you dependent. This is about positioning. It's about understanding, clearly, honestly, without illusion, which side of the infrastructure divide you're on, whether you're building or accessing, whether you're consuming or producing, whether you're reacting to what others built or building something that will still work when the systems around you shift. And they are shifting, not dramatically, not at all at once, but continuously in one direction. Food systems are shifting, consolidating into fewer hands with more automation. Energy systems are shifting, moving toward decentralized production, but also toward concentrated ownership. Work is shifting, not disappearing, but reorganizing around whoever owns the systems that do the work. And attention, the last great resource, is being captured at a scale previous generations couldn't have imagined. The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is what you do with the knowledge that it is. Now you see it, the difference between access and ownership, between consumption and control, between reacting to the world as it is and building